Coming soon, Copper Sky Distillery.
Mike Root.
I guess you found me, huh?
Oh, you can't hide from me.
The sign gives it away. Welcome to our future home.
Well, look at me, I'm already in.
Let's go.
Let's
Damn
do
it,
this.
You beat me in. Yeah, this is it.
All right.
This is it in its bare bones.
It looks like it's going to be definitely open in 2 weeks.
It's gonna be, the front will be for sure. So we got a really cool collective space going. So this front room right here is gonna be a full-time barbershop. So the guy who runs it, his name's Nick. So this is gonna be Nicky's at Copper Sky.
Nice.
So as you're waiting on your haircut, you can sit at the bar, get a drink. And these guys are professional barbers. So you go in there, you get a real cut, you get lined up. And then on the back side, we've got a private room. So you and I want to have a business meeting. We just pop in there, close the barn doors, and we can have a little privacy in there. And then the rest of this open space is where, you know, our wonderful customers will get to sit. And then this beautiful U bar will be built out. I know 2 weeks sounds like a stretch, but it's actually, everything's already hardwired. The plumbing's already good to go. All they have to do now is put the second drywall on after inspection, and then all of our equipment is sitting next door. So we just bring it in, plug it in, and all the wood finishing will go up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what kind of interior are we looking at? I mean, you said drywall, what kind of atmosphere are we going for?
You know, we just came from the old space. So you remember, I like a lot of natural like exposure. So the floor is still gonna be this original concrete that was this is the old Butterball turkey factory. Okay. So this is the floor. You can still see the markings where they would, you know, have their forklifts or they would lay pallets down. So we're gonna keep the original floor. It's gonna be wood finished from a local company and friends of ours who own authentic barnwood. So it's gonna be true barnwood. A lot of it's from Kentucky. The barnwood that's going on that back wall is an old tobacco farm. The barn blew down, so they recovered the wood. So it's gonna be old tobacco wood. So a lot of things we do either has a story or some sort of connection. So yeah. A lot of just natural exposures. The steel, this is the original steel from the building. So we're just gonna leave a lot of that exposed. And as we walk throughout, you'll see like the old barriers. We're gonna leave all of that stuff up.
Nice, nice. Well, I guess without further ado, let's
go.
Let's go into the dark abyss.
Oh man. Yeah, so as we go through the tasting room, all of this is seating. So customers will be out here. The member barrels, if you've been to our distillery before, we've got those private member barrels. Those will be mounted and displayed here. So when you come in, that'll still be a front facing object.
Nice.
We got two bathrooms, 2 unisex bathrooms. So the old place has the 1 bathroom. This one's got 3. So you don't have to wait to go to the bathroom anymore.
Nice. There'll just be a line all the way out to the front.
Yeah, and then on the top, we're gonna have like barrels and stuff displayed. So a lot of cool accent pieces in this building that we really couldn't do in the old one just because of the layout. This one was really designed for the customer experience, which is a really cool part about this. We inherited a shell, so we got to make all of this an experience for the customer. So
nice,
really cool. Again, all of this is just customer seating. You can see the markings on the floor from the old building. And then back in the dark corner, which probably don't need to venture in there, there's no power, but that's where the dry goods warehouse and the boiler room is. So the boiler that's gonna power our new still and our new cook tank, it's double our capacity. So 240 gallon still, 500 gallon cook tank, copper, beautiful. So when it comes in, make sure to, you know, come and snap some pictures.
Yeah.
We had it custom made for us. That'll be powered through a steam boiler that's in that room. And then also that's where all the dry goods. So like all of our grains will stay in there, the overflow of glass, just supplies will be in there.
Right.
So it's not as cramped as the old space. Everything was kind of in the same spot over there. Here, we built it where everything has its own place. So
I think everything over there is a spot the size of this.
Yeah, it's actually, it's not even as big as this front spot.
Yeah.
Over there's 2,300 square feet. This is just under 7,000 square feet. And then there'll be 2 beautiful glass doors here. So if you're on a tour, an employee will key fob you in because there's a lot of control points in this place. And again, you can see these are the original barriers that were in the old turkey factory. We kept it all up.
Yeah.
So you'll get key fobbed in and your tour will start if you're doing a tour. And then you can see the copper piping's already starting to drop in. So the still will go right here, the cook tank will go right there, and all the fermenters will go behind us. So just tons of natural light. We got the big windows put in. There'll be a garage door there so we can, you know, just supplies in and out. And then even standing here, you'll be able to just look into the barrel room. So
yeah,
this length is what we're calling the factory bottling will all be done here along that wall. Those are the offices in the back. So now the staff actually has dedicated offices. We're not kind of working willy-nilly. We have workspaces for everybody. And then on the other side of that installation, that's the massive barrel room. So it's almost 1,000 square feet of its own. That's just where barrels will go.
So filled or empty?
They'll all be full.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be able to increase our capacity for filling whiskey barrels about 3 to 4 times.
All right.
So yeah, we'll start filling this up with whiskey barrels. You can see super high ceilings. Again, all natural lighting, really cool. So this will be part of the tour as well. And we're gonna fill it up as fast as we can.
So I know Buffalo Trace and a handful of other rick houses, now they're starting to get into the climate controlled and computer controlled areas. So what are your plans for that in this room?
So this is, I would say it's semi-climate controlled. There is natural airflow just because like in code restrictions, we have to have airflow because of the whiskey evaporation and the alcohol that's in the air. So there's natural airflow, but we're not climate controlling it in the sense that we're regulating like a pure 72 degrees. Here in Colorado, not only does the altitude really affect the whiskey, but the climate does. Like we have really good climate swings and we're dry, so the humidity is really different. So we just let the barrels do what they do. And that's kind of what makes Colorado different, right? If I try to control it at 72 with 80% humidity, I'm just doing what the South is naturally doing. And so I don't want to try to do what they're doing. I want to do what Colorado wants it to do. So it's climate controlled in the fact of there's drywall insulation and bricks, but we're not doing anything special to try to maintain a specific temperature.
You want a Colorado whiskey. You don't want a replicated Tennessee or
exactly
wherever.
Right. Yep.
So that kind of leads me to another thing. Previously, you do source your distillate.
Yep.
You're bringing in your own pots.
Yep.
What's the process with that? When do you plan? Are you going to migrate your blend into what you have already? What's your future with that?
No, so right now, I would call us, we're a hybrid distillery. So the products that are on the shelf right now are sourced. MGP, everybody knows that. We're open book. We're going to continue to source, but we are also and have been making our own whiskey. So what we're doing is we're letting our whiskey continue to age. Because as you know, drinking with me, I don't really like anything less than 4 or 5 years old minimum. Mm-hmm. So our whiskey is sitting, our first couple batches have already been laid. And with this new equipment, we'll be able to increase that. So we'll keep making whiskey, but it's gonna sit until it hits 4 or 5 years. So in the interim, we'll keep doing our custom, award-winning blends and putting that out. But the difference is when we get to the point of where we're ready to release some of our whiskey, we're not gonna pull like the bait and switch. We're not gonna say, here's Copper Sky. We're just gonna add a page to the portfolio. So we're gonna keep the source products that we have, but we're also gonna introduce our products. So we're not gonna switch them and we're not gonna blend those two. We'll blend MGP or wherever we're sourcing from, or we'll blend our products. So it'll just be 2 different pages in the portfolio versus trying to blend our stuff with MGP or removing MGP and just introducing our stuff. Because from day one I've always said I don't want to introduce a product that people love and then take it from them. Mm-hmm. So we'll leave that there and just add our stuff as another label in the portfolio.
And that's what I see on some of these other sourced out of Nevada, wherever they are, right? They're abandoning their sourced lineup and then they're actually coming out with their own to replace it.
Yeah.
So you've kind of already thought that in advance. You don't want to abandon people that love what you've blended, you and Isaac together. Well, although we haven't seen Isaac yet, but
he's like a unicorn. Can't get him on camera.
You could hear him. You might see a picture, but you could taste his awesomeness. In a way. But you're going to actually. That's pretty cool that you're going to do 2 different types of. I don't want to say product lines, but you're gonna have your original kind of blend and source stuff, but then you're also gonna have your I guess original distillate.
In the whiskey world there's a lot of pride, which can either be a good thing or a bad thing. And so he and I play off each other very well where we want to protect the brand. And so like even with the bottled and bond thing, there's a lot of other things that we've thrown around, but we want to make sure we either A, introduce them at the right time, or B, we introduce them appropriately where we're not diluting it, like if we're just taking some of our whiskey and some of MGP's whiskey, which is how we came up with, we're just gonna have another page in the portfolio. There's a lot of brands that have, most people start sourcing and then when they get their stuff in play, they'll stop sourcing and just put their stuff in. And it's, the whiskey world is really finicky. You only have one chance to get a customer. And at any point in that line, if you lose that customer, it's really hard to get them back because there's so many options of whiskey. And so again, I don't want to introduce, people love our bourbon, they love our wheat whiskey, and so I don't want to take that from them. So we can have that and also another label. So it's not another line, another brand, it's just another label. And they're not mutually, you can have both. And so that's what we'll do is introduce Copper Sky's, all internal Copper Sky whiskey, but we will also continue to have the other brands that people have fallen in love with, they've come attached with, because you got to think, they've been drinking that, when our stuff releases, they'll have been drinking that for 4 or 5 years. So there's no sense in ripping that from them. Yeah. And again, that's the history of Copper Sky. That's where we started, that's what people fell in love with. And the good thing is all along we've been saying that's our plan, so they know what we're growing into. And so the fact that they've been there with us since day one, that's that support chain that has gotten us into this building. And so we're gonna keep giving them that whiskey. And oh, by the way, we're really good at this, so here's our other really good all Copper Sky whiskey.
Yeah.
It's just, it's another page.
All original. Different logo, we're gonna stick with the same
logo.
Beautiful logo?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
Justin has done a really good job at our branding and marketing. So we're definitely going to stay true to who we are. We have, just different color palettes and different designs, but shape of the bottle, everything's going to stay the same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when I was designing the logo let me rephrase that. I wasn't designing the logo. When I was having my logo designed for the Colorado Whiskey Speakeasy, one of the logos that came through from one of the contractors was really beautiful. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It's very similar to what we have now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I know, but I've seen that lettering before. I'm gonna have to pop a picture of it real quick. Man. Same font as yours. And as soon as I realized that it was, I'm like, I replied, I'm like, no, we gotta change the font, because I didn't wanna infringe or anything like that, because you and I are friends outside of this. And I respect you and I respect everything that you've built up, but I didn't want it to seem like I was riding your coattails or vice versa, or even we're part of the same kind of conglomerate or anything like that. So let's finish the tour, because I do have some more questions about that conglomerate I want to talk to you about.
So as the tour goes on, you'll go from the factory to the barrel room, come through here, we'll show you where all the bottling is done. So that'll all be on this wall, there'll probably be some stuff on this. But a really cool feature that we're introducing, typically when you go to distilleries, you've got the big tasting room, whether it's small or it's massive. We're actually putting 2 different versions of a tasting room in the distillery. So the front that we started in is what I call the retail space. It's your typical tasting room. You go to do flights, you sample things. There's high tables, there's hard furniture. We're pushing retail. There's shirts, sweatshirts, hats, bottle sales. There's all that. But then if you do the tour, or if you're a member, or if you're a regular of ours, you come through this space, and this door will be a private. It's like a barn door almost. Again, key fob, so you can't just wander around. And this will lead you into our speakeasy.
Okay.
So this is a much smaller, much quainter bar. So the bar is gonna be on that side. All the furniture in here is low leather couches, end tables, coffee tables, recliner chairs. This is not a retail space. This is where you come, this is more of a lounge. So there's not gonna be bottle sales. There's not gonna be, we're not up back here saying, buy a hat, buy a shirt. Right. This is where you come because you've been with us since day one, where you get a tour and you're just coming to relax. You want a cocktail, you wanna hang out. We'll also rent this space out for private events. It's gonna have a patio outside that's gated, and we're putting the foliage up so you have some privacy. Yeah. So this really is a space you come, the locals will come to unwind. Yep. Because they come here every week, so they don't need to be in the front and be upsold, or they don't need to be told the story. They know who we are. They've been with us since the old space. Right. So they'll come back here, get their cocktail, sit on the couch, and just reminisce with their friends.
Now, will they have the ability or their own key fob where they can one door only, maybe they can go through to the front room if they need to?
Nope, so the only way, if you come through this space, it has to be with an employee on a tour.
Okay.
Because all access points are key fob. There will be a private access through the garden that's gonna have a keypad. So if you're a member or a regular, you will have the code to be able to come through here. But it's very private access, very limited seating. So again, it's not like, hey, we're looking for a place to hang out. This is gonna be run like a speakeasy.
Gotcha.
If we don't see you all the time, or you're not a member, or you're not a regular, You might only know about this place because someone's told you. You won't see it until you get back here.
No, it's a good concept. It relieves some of the pressure,
Yeah.
relieves some of, in my eyes as a consumer, I should say anyway, relieves some of just the weird chit chat that you don't care to hear
Absolutely.
about. You just want to come back here, sit back, enjoy the spirit, relax with a friend or two or a handful of friends that have been here from ground zero or along the way, at least to watch you grow.
Absolutely.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So we talked about conglomerates.
Yeah.
You hustle.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been trying to get this interview with you for, I don't know, a month, or let's just pretend 2 years. But for real, for about a month or so, because you're very busy doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
What else do you have going on in the pot, no pun intended?
Well, I already started a brokerage, so I own Rickhouse Spirits Company with some really good partners, and we just basically, sell hundreds of barrels every month. It's not like Copper Sky is a dedicated brand. Rickhouse was designed to help smaller distillers be able to source the whiskey that they need and maintain their brand, because a lot of these big guys like MGP, they're not taking on new clients, they're not taking on small orders, so they're really ostracizing the young or the small distilleries. So I started Rickhouse to really take care of the small guys. So that's a side project. I've got a foundation going on, a couple other new businesses working here.
Still the
yeah,
hush, hush.
Well, I mean, it's not so much hush hush. I tell people, like, I really want a high-end whiskey and wine restaurant, because Boulder, they have a lot of great restaurants, but the people who live here in Longmont, we want the same experiences, but we just don't want to pay the same prices. I don't want to pay $500 for a meal for two.
Right. You don't want some guy just throwing salt down his forearm.
I want to bring that same atmosphere here to Longmont, just without that, that high price. So that's something that's kind of in the works with some people, is to bring a high-end whiskey and wine restaurant here in Longmont. But yeah, my brain's always scheming.
Yeah.
I've always got something going on, but it's always motivated by, customers or friends, or like, what does the city want and that they need? And that's where the fun is.
So, do I hear that you're going to get into wine as well?
I am not. Isaac has a great palate for wine. Kaya's got a great wine palate, and I've got friends who have great wine palates. That's the thing with me. Like, when I start ventures, I never pretend to know it all. I'm good at building companies. I'm good at building teams. And so you bring the team in who's already an expert, and then they can, just like Copper Sky. Like, I don't claim to be a master distiller. I know the process, I know it, but I'm not a master distiller. So you bring people in who are better at that thing, like better at sales, better at mixology, like Oliver. I mean, that dude is a freaking magician behind the bar. I can't do that. So it's any business venture, I do that. It's like, all right, here's the idea, here's the concept. Let's put the team in place that can run it efficiently. So I'm still learning about wines. I'm trying to get into them. I still can't get into beer, but wines I'm learning a little bit about.
It's touch and go. I mean,
it's also another deep rabbit hole that I'm scared to go down, because whiskey is already so wild.
Right.
I don't want to go down the wine hole and be like, oh crap, now I've got 1,000 bottles of wine, I got 1,000 bottles of whiskey.
10 billion barrels of everything.
I don't have a lifetime long enough to drink this, so.
So, you've experimented before with throwing in some of your product into wine barrels and other type of barrels. So why don't we expand a little bit on that? Like, what's Madeira? You had a cask finish with that.
Yeah.
I have a bottle at home. I haven't yet opened it yet.
Oof,
so tell me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so the big thing with us is I don't mind. I really love and encourage like the innovation of trying new things. But the biggest thing for me is, and it's like one of our mantras, is we'll always be whiskey forward. So if you get a Madeira, if you get any of the finishes that we do, the honey that was so popular, the apple brandy, it's still whiskey forward. When you sip it, it's not like, all I taste is apple brandy, all I taste is honey, all I taste is Madeira. That's really a secondary or tertiary flavor, because you're still getting the whiskey up front. And so that's what really sets us apart from some of the other distilleries doing finishes, is we are very meticulous about how long it stays in the barrel. There is no standard, it's 2, 3, 4 months. We taste it weekly to see when it's ready, because we really believe like it will tell us when it's ready. Mm-hmm. Some take longer, some are shorter. So the biggest thing with us is you'll always have that spirit forward taste, and then it's just, I always say it's complemented by the honey, the Madeira, the wine, whatever it is. And that's where we get to have a lot of fun too, is we we're protecting the whiskey and its flavor, and then just letting you have fun with some side palate flavors.
So the inhale and the first gulp is the whiskey forward.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
And then the sit and the exhale out is the Madeira or the honey or...
Whatever, yeah.
So
yeah, that's what hits you kind of on that back palate, is that secondary flavor.
Nice. Are you going to recreate any of the ones that you've done already?
Oh, absolutely. We've already got some, batch 2s sitting at the warehouse. Honey, obviously, because that was one of our best sellers. And there's a couple other new projects we're also going to introduce this year. But again, we like trying things, and some of the things we do are some things that other distilleries have done, but we don't do things just for the sake of doing them. We've got a cigar batch that's going on now that it seems like we're doing it because everyone else has done it. That's been in the works for a long time. It's just been resting because we have a very specific process. So we'll have a cigar batch coming out, and actually batch 2 because our batch 1 went to a private group. So there's things that we're doing that are, to us, it's innovative because of the process we're doing it. The way we're looking for the flavors is really different than a lot of other distilleries. Because Isaac's, he studies that stuff too. It's not just like, here's a name, let's do it. We're very particular about the wood we use, the grains we use, how we blend, the amount of whiskey we use. So it might seem like, we're just throwing things together, but it's like we were joking earlier. We ingest information so fast, everything seems fast. But we've been working on a lot of our projects for months, if not a year or more, and all of our future projects are the same way.
Yeah. So, being very Colorado now, born and raised in the South.
Oh yeah.
So whereabouts were you born and raised, and what brought you to Colorado? I know you're military as well.
Oh yeah. I was born in Florida, lived in Alabama. So between Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, I lived there for 26-ish years. So I say a Southern boy because it's kind of the whole South.
Yeah.
And then military. So I lived all over. Lived in Pakistan for a long time. And then I came out to Colorado. So I've been here for almost 6 years. And this is a place that I visited when I was a young kid and fell in love with Colorado and always knew I wanted to be here. So I just kind of finagled my way to get the government to pay for me to be here and then just stayed. So now I'm here and this is my home and I love Colorado.
And you jumped in the deep end. I mean, you go to the Broncos games, the Avalanche games. I mean, it's beginning of May, so.
It's interesting because even being a Southern boy, I've always been an Avalanche fan because of Patrick Waugh, and I've always been a Broncos fan because of Terrell Davis. So those two Colorado franchises my whole life, and I'm such a diehard fan because I was self-made. My family wasn't that way. In basketball, I'm kind of indifferent. And then baseball, I'm a Braves fan, so that's a Southern team. But the Avs and the Broncos, I'm self-made, which is why I'm such a diehard fan.
Yeah. So, jumped in deep to the pool, Colorado pool. You're gonna start creating your own distillate. Are you sourcing local ingredients for that?
Absolutely. So most of our grains come from, it's called root shoot malting. No affiliation. Everybody's like, oh, Mike Root. No, they've been established. What they do is they source from local farms. They're based out of Loveland. So we use them for most of our grains, which we've used them in the past. So like the whiskeys we've already laid down, the moonshine we've made, a lot of that came from root shoot. And so we're just expanding that logistical train now. There's a few random things we get. We try to get it from Colorado. It might just be from a bigger source. But to me, I've said this before in other interviews, to me being Colorado doesn't necessarily mean everything has to come from Colorado. In today's logistical world, it's just hard. And I'm trying to, put out the best tasting whiskey. Sometimes that might, mean, rice hulls come from somewhere else. So to me, like, a Colorado product, even now, I get it, we're sourcing, but we're still a Colorado brand. Like, our heart is in Colorado. I mean, you've seen all the community Colorado work we do. Like, we bleed Colorado. And so we're a Colorado brand, but, to me, Colorado just means like, what are you putting out that's good in this state? It doesn't have to be every single grain from every single comes from Colorado. That's hard, and it's expensive. So yeah, I can do that, but then that's that's a $75 bottle of whiskey when it could have been a $40 bottle of whiskey.
Well, and ultimately, I mean, you bleed Colorado now, so you want to try to source it, but if there is a better product for a better price margin, you'd be stupid not to try sourcing it out of Oregon or wherever they may come from. I mean, I'm just throwing out states.
Yeah, and our biggest thing, that we really put our flag in that says, we are Colorado, again, is how we give back to the communities, how we connect to the communities. It's less of where do we get our grains from? It's more of who else are we supporting? Like even with this project, what we're standing in here, every single thing that we've done in this building is either a Longmont company or a Colorado company. We didn't outsource. I mean, from the builder to the architect to most of the stuff, it's either Longmont or Denver or somewhere really close. Because every project we do, we try to incorporate our community. I mean, even when we started the other place during COVID, all the wood came from a local Longmont place. Everything, the honey that we get comes from a local beekeeper. So that's to us is what we consider ourselves, like we're Colorado, is we try to give back to other Colorado businesses, not like, oh, every little thing I do is Colorado. Everything that we give back to is Colorado.
Kind of circle back to Isaac real quick.
Yeah.
So Isaac was living out in, well, the fire zone.
Right.
And he lost his house.
Yep.
So you went ahead and, or you as in Copper Sky, went ahead and tried to raise some funds for him.
Oh yeah.
How did that go and what did you do?
Oh man, it went better than we could have imagined. Just like with most of the things we do, we have such a great community. So for his, again, he literally lost everything. I mean, the stories that he tells me is like they barely rescued their animals because the wind was just blowing through. So his roommates, he was at the distillery when he found out about the evacuation, didn't even have time to get in his car and start driving before it was already gone. And I was out of state when I heard about that, and immediately I was like, all right, we've got some special barrels. We're gonna use that to raise funds. So got back to Colorado, invited some groups, some RMBW, CBC, the Centers Club, and then the Colorado Gentlemen's Society. I think that's it. If I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry. But some of those guys, they came to the distillery, we sampled barrels, and we picked a 26-year-old Canadian whiskey to be a charity bottle. And then Justin, our director of marketing, created that label with Isaac's image on the front and the hair.
Yeah.
It was called the We Are Family bottle. That pre-sold out before we even bottled it, just because of the networking and the friends and the community. So we raised a really good amount to give to Isaac so he could get an apartment, start a whole new life, whole new wardrobe, basically everything. So, between us and the Melendez Foundation, we got to help him start his new life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And to kind of go into that, your most recent kind of fundraising bottle is even closer to the heart.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it brings a tear to my eye just even thinking about with this bottle. So why don't you, if you have,
so
the will for that one.
It all started because we had 4 barrels of really exclusive Canadian whiskey because of a good friend, Gene Nassif, who runs Obtainium. So I got those, which is how we got to do Isaac's barrel. And then the barrel for my mom, who has MS and now recently diagnosed with breast cancer. She's going through chemo. It's really a struggle because just with MS, generally the chemo is just taking all her energy away. So when mom calls and says I need help, I will do whatever I can because it's rare that your parents ask you for help. And so to me, I was like, I'm in a position to be able to do whatever I can. So whiskey is what I know and whiskey is what we used. So we took a sister barrel from that 26-year-old Canadian lot and we put it in a Weller Special Reserve barrel, so the green label, and let it rest in there for a few months just to kind of take that edge off of it because it was 155 proof. And it's not hot, but it overwhelms your palate where it's like, what is going on?
Right.
So it was a little spicier than I wanted. So we put it in a Weller Special Reserve barrels, just a cool, I'm a Weller fan. And then Justin created an amazing label that was really hard not to start crying when I saw that because I just told him, like, this is what I want. And of course, with the label he sends back, it's got the ribbon, and it's like, no one fights alone. It was just really meaningful. And so we just bottled that this past week. I think there's only like 20 bottles left, so we almost sold out of that already. But yeah, all the money from that went to help pay for mom's medical bills because the unfortunate side of things is when you have semi-decent medical insurance, you have to pay a lot more. And so her bills are just mounting up, and my little brother's still in college, so they're just struggling. So we use whiskey to raise funds, and again, the community has there's people that are ordering this bottle I've never even met, never heard of, never talked to, but I see their names come across the order screen, and it's really meaningful when you ask for help, people help.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, you give back so much to have the community try to help you and your family. I mean, I'm starting to get a little choked up just now thinking about it. So, It's just an amazing thing, and I hope and pray for the best for your mother and for your family, of course. So, Rick House.
Oh yeah.
Rumor has it there might be the Lab Wampa, or what do we nickname Isaac?
Whiskey Wonka.
The Whiskey Wonka.
Yeah.
He might be over there.
I think he might be hiding over there.
All right. Do you want to go see if we can find
See
him?
if we can see him hiding behind a barrel.
Yeah, maybe. Push his head up out.
There's a magic whistle I'm supposed to use.
Yeah, hand signals. And, we can't use smoke signals. That might be a little too close to home.
Yeah, with whiskey too.
Too
Yeah.
soon, yeah.
Yeah. Smoking Isaac is a little traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will be fun to come back to in a couple weeks and see the finished product.
Yeah, for sure.